Welcome to the T2 Hubcast. Join Martin, Dave, Spencer and guests as they discuss all things personal and professional development. The T2 Hubcast, brought to you by the People Performance People.
So welcome to another T2 Hubcast with you,
Spencer Locker.
and me, Martin Johnson. See what I did there, Spence?
I did.
I've swapped it around.
Changed it up.
Can't do that to you, can I?
No.
I can't be
didn't
throwing
see that coming. Did you see my face go? Yeah.
So it is Thursday this week. We've had a busy week and we've been meaning to jump in. We haven't done a Hubcast yet this week and we're pretty prolific in recording them, so we wanted to jump in. Now, we've had a request, Spence.
A request?
We've had a request.
A request?
We do have fans.
Do we?
Well, a few of them, yeah. We've had a request from someone who's messaged in and said, I listen to your Hubcasts in the car. I listen to them on my commute, find them fascinating, always brings a smile to my face, but I learn as well, which I thought, well, that's what we're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah, I suppose you're ticking all the boxes there.
Not too stuffy, not too serious, but also trying to deliver some of those salient points that make a difference. And they've asked, could we record something being two veterans ourselves? Mm-hmm. Could we record something on veterans in the workplace?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I sort of instantly thought, yeah, that's a cool idea because we, the customers that we work with, Spence, there's a lot of veterans who operate in the workplace, right? Yeah. But there's also still a little bit of hesitation or stigma sometimes that can come with hiring a veteran into the workplace.
Yeah.
Or they're too institutionalized, or they're not what we're looking for, or too rigid and robust, or whatever it might be. So I thought we'd record this Hubcast being So I've spent years in the Royal Navy, senior service across 4 continents.
Yeah.
And you've spent 22 years making coffee in the RAF.
24 years making coffee in the RAF. Yeah.
It's already started. We need someone from the army to represent the army.
Well, that's the thing, in it, because with the Navy, you've got the senior service, proud, traditional. Everybody looks up to them. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they take the job seriously. Then you've got me in the junior service, the cheeky little imp, the young kid, the child of the services, who's a little bit of a rapscallion, can get away with things, and then you've got the army, who's the unloved middle stepchild.
Who wants to be top dog, but will never be top dog.
Yeah,
sorry, people who are in the army or ex-pongos.
You'll get it. That's the banter, though. They'll be smiling inside.
Yeah. So I've served properly, even though it was a shorter amount of time, and Spencer's drank coffee for 24 years. But honestly, on a serious note, we've both served, so we understand the world of the military.
Yeah.
We also understand what it's like to transition into the corporate world and into civistry, and it's not easy. It does present a few challenges, but as we're both proven, Spence, navigated it successfully and thriving. So. Veterans in the workplace. Spence, what's your first? Let's attack this in terms of some of the characteristics, behaviours, and traits that veterans bring with them when they've served time in the military. Into the workplace. What do you want to kick off with? Because this is completely off the cuff, right?
Right.
So what do you want to kick off with?
So the one thing that I observe is that initially, when they're initially faced with a situation that's unfamiliar with them, they are quite rigid. They are quite structured. However, it doesn't take long for them to relax. And with that relaxation comes a slightly inappropriate sense of humour.
Well, I do you know what? You took the words out my mouth. I instantly thought inappropriate humour, because what organisations have to realise and the workplace have to realise is when you are in the military, whether it's RAF, Army or Navy, the only way you survive is to throw yourself into inappropriate humour.
Yeah.
And it's on a daily basis, right? If you cannot give banter and take banter, you ain't going to survive.
No.
So you almost get by socially on banter.
Yeah.
So when you come into the workplace and you're working with your civilian counterparts for the first week, you think it's perfectly okay to make a comment about their dress sense.
Yeah.
or their hairstyle or whatever it might be, and wonder why you get some very sharp looks. Early doors, you know?
And the thing is, there's a spectrum, isn't there? Because you can do that, and people will be like, okay, All right, then, fair enough then.
Yeah.
However, you've also got to bear in mind that first Christmas party you go to, it is not acceptable to you run through the room shout in your naked bar. Okay.
Yeah. Or downing 5 pints in
Yeah.
the first half an hour,
Yeah.
smashing the glass on your head and taking your top off, right? It's
Yeah.
just,
Oh, yeah.
it's a different world.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think you've hit up on a salient point. What veterans will bring to by the way, we're supposed to be promoting veterans in the workplace, Spence, not putting employers off. What we're saying here is what veterans bring and what ex-military people bring is a completely social, in most cases, a completely social beast, if you like. They are very open. It's a different type, but once they slightly curb that and adjust, it serves them well, because genuinely military people are social animals.
Of course they are. I mean, you work together, you live together. If you're on a ship or you're in barracks, then you're all living together, you're all socializing together. Whatever pursuit you choose, whether it is sports or social, you're doing it with other people from a similar background to you, similar sort of, they live in the same community as you. When you're out in the field, you're living in shell scrapes and vehicles and things like that. So you're living almost, you know people intimately.
Yeah.
Intimately.
And do you know what, as well, just extending upon this, the great thing about veterans and ex-service people in the workplace is they will never turn down a social after work.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, if people have got to understand that every day after work is a social in the military.
Yeah.
So if someone shouts, anyone fancy a beer after work on a Wednesday, we're in.
Yeah.
Right? We're in.
Yeah.
And that's really good, because quite often sometimes in modern day workplaces, we don't do enough together.
No.
We all come to our place of work, we carry out our duties, we say goodbye, we go home, we've all got busy lives. But sometimes that social time is, we do it from time to time, don't we, Spencer? We make a conscious effort to do it. We're going out this Friday evening as a team. It really works, and it really helps us just relax and build bonds and relationships outside of the work. I'm telling you now, ex-veterans are always up for an after-work beer.
And just to follow on a little bit on that one, generally speaking, you'll do the team outing, that going to the bar, having a team social, whatever. But you soon find out that when something needs doing, when you've got a mission critical job, when you've got a task in that doesn't finish at 5 o'clock, it'll go past 5 o'clock. So rather than one person saying, you guys go, I'll finish up, it's a case of we stop until it's done, and then we all go out and have a social.
Right, you just brought me on to another point here about veterans. You use the words there, mission critical, right? Here's the thing, employers, and here's the thing, the civilian world. If you're going to take veterans on, and there's so many benefits to doing that, you have to understand that at times they will use a completely different language, right?
Yeah.
That nobody else understands.
Yeah.
Because for how many years they have spoken we make words up in the military. We make words up, they do not exist, right? So we call a drink a wet. Go get the wets in. Now, I've said it a million times, go get the wets in. There's only you, Spencer, who looks across and understands what that means, right? Everybody else is going, what are you on about? You know?
But the only reason I know that is because I've worked with the Navy. Because if you're in different places, you've got sippers and you've got this, that, and the other. And you can't have sippers in the Navy because people might think you're saying shippers.
Yeah.
So if you've got wets and
And we make words up. We absolutely make words up. And someone will talk to you, and in the Navy, we respond with everything with Roger that. Yeah. People are looking at us and who's Roger?
Yeah.
Who's bloody Roger? No, I'm just saying, I understand.
Yes, yeah. I understand. I'll do it as soon as I get back from the heads.
The heads.
What?
By the way, the heads are the toilets, right? So we use completely different language. And do you know what's amazing about it? When veterans first go in the workplace, they don't realise for a moment that people don't understand what they're talking about. They assume everybody else knows what they're talking about. Yeah. And people just agree with you and think, what the hell are they talking about, right? Yeah. So language, for veterans entering the workplace, you've got to understand that. Maybe you've got to tone it down, but for employers, just roll with the punches,
That's what I was going to say then. The punctuation we use. The punctuation we use usually begins with F. Yes, I mean obviously we've toned it down, but when the veterans come out the forces, there is a temptation to punctuate every sentence with the F word.
Yeah.
Instead of saying or
Yeah.
there is a tendency.
We have fillers, don't we? Where
Yeah.
I say, you know what I mean, or right, or right. I say them as fillers. Military people use swear words as fillers, right? My brother's a classic example. Howard Danny, he slots any sentence that has a gap in it with the F word, just randomly. Don't even go. He just bangs an F word in there. Because in the military, it's the environment where it's almost accepted, stroke encouraged.
Yeah.
It can be a bit of a shock in the civilian world. So one of the things I really had to focus on is you got to be yourself, right? And there's nothing wrong with swearing. Let's not be a prude around it. We do it all the time, but I think military people unconsciously do it almost every sentence, right? So we've got to try and tone that down. Let's talk about OCD.
Oh yeah.
Most veterans either consciously or unconsciously develop a level of OCD. Purely because you've been beaten for years to develop this mindset around cleanliness and tidiness, right?
Conditions.
You have a clean working space.
Yeah.
Your locker, your area, your bed, your bunk, whatever it might be, is kept impeccably. Things go where they go. The keys go on that hook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The beer fridge is there.
Yeah.
That's the main one, right?
Yeah.
And things have a place. Well, you always have a saying, don't you? There's a place for everything
and everything in its place.
And everything in its place. Yeah. And whether you are naturally like that, by the time you leave the military, you are like that because it's become habitual.
Yeah, certainly.
So in the workplace, the real positive of veterans is they keep their part of ship, to call a Navy term, they keep their part of ship incredibly clean, tidy, organised and structured.
Yeah, it's a belt and braces attitude, isn't it? Because when you're going through your basic training, whether you're Army, Navy or Air Force, Navy, Army and Air Force, get it in the right order.
Thank you, Spencer.
It's like zips on your Bergen, clips on your webbing, and making sure all your pouches are closed and your pockets are closed, because if you get to where you need to be and you haven't got a certain bit of kit to be able to complete that mission or that task or whatever, because you have forgotten to close a zip a pocket or close a Bergen or close a pouch and it's dropped out as you've been tabbing or yomping or whatever you do.
Well, tabbing in the Navy is smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can already see the difference in the dialects there. But I get your point.
But yeah, it's a belt and braces attitude, and I think that this is something that a lot of employers tend to miss, because when you are looking to employ somebody and you get an application form from a former member of the armed forces, a veteran, sometimes the former member of the forces will only put down what his qualifications are. And I don't think, and this is both for the potential employee and the employer, transferable skills. There are so many skills that people get in the forces that aren't qualifications, but they are skills that they practice and practice and practice and practice. But because they don't feel they haven't got a qualification for it, they won't put it on the CV. So you've got to start thinking about what you can actually put down there.
And let me tell you, organization, I call it OCD, but the organization and structure of a veteran is one which, and think about the rationale behind it. We're conditioned to do that, so we're ready to deploy into action at any time, and we know where we need to be, where everything is, right, and how we can instantly spring into action. That's invaluable in the workplace.
Yeah,
you work with me, Spence, right? Here, there's people in this office who drive me crazy.
Yeah,
because their desk is a shit tip.
Yeah,
and it's piles of this and piles of that, and they say, Martin, leave it. It's Dave always says to me, doesn't it? It's a place of industry. No, Dave, it's a pigsty, right? It's not. That's just a scruffy person's excuse. It's not a place of industry. Claire's to-do list's on about 5 million bits of paper and on the back of a fag packet. And it's like, and it drives me crazy because I just cannot operate like that, right? So it means like when I ask questions to people, they're searching through piles and in drawers just to desperately find something. Whereas what you'll get with most veterans is that level of organization and structure where they're ready to deploy at a split second. They
Yeah.
know where things are. They know what they're doing. They know which spreadsheet to go to.
Yeah.
They can dig out an email from their very, very tidily put folders in their Outlook. They can absolutely right. They can grab something within probably 10 seconds because they
Yeah.
know where it are. Structure and organisation is really important for
Yes.
productivity, and veterans bring that in abundance.
Very much so.
Right, I want to talk about something else. Now, this might just be me, but I've got a feeling it might be most veterans. When in the forces, we have this sort of saying, don't we, where if you are on time, you're late.
Yeah, late. Yeah.
So if you're mustering at 8 a.m., we call it mustering. Do you call it mustering?
If we usually call it brunch.
Well, let's face it, in the RAF, it definitely wouldn't be 8 a.m., would it? It'd be more like 10 a.m. brunch, yeah.
Yeah.
So we call it mustering. Now, if you're to muster at 8 a.m., which means you've got to turn up to the place of work that you're expected.
Yeah.
If you turn up at 1 minute to 8, you're considered as late.
Yes.
You need to muster 15 minutes before. You've got to be there at 7:45.
Yeah.
And it's just this military conditioning. So you're there early, you're sorted, you're ready to go.
Punctuality.
Now, I take it to the extreme a little bit, and people sort of, take the piss out of me a little bit for it. Because if I'm going to a meeting or a customer meeting or I'm on the road, I plan to be there half an hour early.
Yep, same
Because
here.
I'd rather be sat in the car park half an hour early, nice and relaxed, listening to the music, ready to go in.
Yeah,
If I'm still tear-assing 5 miles away down the motorway with 10 minutes to go,
yeah.
that snowballs into a completely stressful situation.
Yeah. And it's planning for the unexpected as well, innit? Because you think to yourself, right, I could get there 10 minutes early. However, if I hit traffic or if there's an accident or something like that, then that 10 minutes is going to evaporate quite quickly.
But this stems into every part of a veteran's life.
Well, yeah.
If they're going out with friends on a night out, you'll often find the veteran sat on the settee in full rig, hair done, aftershave on, ready to go.
Yeah.
20 minutes before the taxi's coming.
Yeah.
While the other half is still upstairs, only just getting out the shower, right? We're just like that. It drives me crazy.
It's the 6 Ps at the end of the day, isn't it?
Piss poor.
Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Yeah.
So veterans, they are absolutely, unquestionably always early. Now, what I will say on this is sometimes for veterans in the workplace, you've got to loosen off a little bit on this, because actually, if you turn up to a CEO's office or a customer's office half an hour before the meeting time, and they get that call up from reception, it can actually go against you. Well, the meeting, you're putting pressure on me. The meeting's not for another half an hour. Why have they turned up early?
Yeah.
It's absolutely normal and logical to us, the veteran, because we go, well, we're turning up early because we're here nice and early. And if you're ready to go, you're ready to go. If not, I'll wait for you, right?
Yeah.
But actually turning up to people's offices half an hour early can put them under a bit of pressure to finish a prior meeting, etc. And it can actually not be a good thing. So we've got to curb it a little bit and maybe settle for 10 to 15 minutes early.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's here's another thing that veterans probably can't get their head round. They spend their lives in tea and coffee rounds in the military. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
You don't get a single wet. We call it a single wet.
Yeah.
An isolated drink. You don't go make yourself a drink.
Yeah.
It's always someone's turn to make the rest of the gang the drinks.
Yeah. Get around it, yeah.
You get around it. It doesn't work like that in offices.
No.
In fact, most people get single drinks. Most people look after themselves.
Yeah.
So to the veteran who comes in, they'll be really, really like gung-ho, and they'll think, do you know what? I'll go out my way and I'll get the first few rounds in. I'll go and make everyone a coffee, right? And I'll start this process off.
Yeah.
And then when the person gets up 2 days later and goes and makes their own coffee, the veteran's head goes.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
like, whoa, where are you going?
Yeah.
You know?
Is there a drought? Yeah, come on.
And do you know what else veterans have got to resist doing? When the civilian brings you your drink back and it's 3/4 full in the cup.
Where's the rest of it?
Yeah. Is there a shortage? Where's the rest of it? Did the milk run out? You know, it's all these snide comments where they're thinking, I've made you a bloody cup of tea. What's wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? So it's so funny, but yeah, you get used in the military to sharing everything, to collaborating on everything, from making teas, you know, and it doesn't work like that in offices unless you establish that from the start.
Yeah, and you also need to wind down your coffee orders a bit, because you have a Julie Andrews, don't you? And I have a standard.
Julie Andrews is
white nun.
White nun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mine just standard NATO, white 2 sugars. But the thing is, if somebody turns around and say, how do you take your coffee? And you say Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
then he's like, what?
Yeah, and then you give them the old thermal military flask and say, top that up, please, top that up with 2 litres of coffee, please.
Yeah.
Oh dear. The other thing I observe about military people is, if you think about how you operate in the military, you do your work as quick as you can. You're efficient.
Yeah.
So if you need to get stuff done, you get stuff done. And what military people often do are become incredibly productive in the morning. So throughout the morning through to lunch, I've never known productivity like it than in the military. You turn too early. Turn to mean you start work.
Yeah.
You turn too early. And this is the thing about military people, always start early. They prefer to we're early birds, right? So you get up early, you start early, but as soon as the buzzer goes, at the end of the day, you want to be off.
Yeah.
And it's all that, it's that mentality. I'll start early, I'll get all my work done, and then I've got a relaxed afternoon and I'm off early and I'm playing golf by 4:30, right?
Yeah.
So military people tend to get frustrated in the workplace. This is my observation. And you know what, Spence? I'm going to make this observation about you.
All right.
You're thinking, what's coming now?
Yeah,
right?
I am actually.
You want to come in the morning and get everything done, and then get frustrated if there's not much to do in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And that boredom and that frustration, if there's not much to do, starts to create frustration in a military person.
Yeah.
And normal civilians tend to sort of work throughout the day and balance the day, but they don't have that out the blocks.
Yeah.
Start like military people have. Do you know what I mean? They're up in the morning, they're there early, they've got the coffee, they're smashing out their work throughout the morning, and it's like all done. What now? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think when you have veterans in the workplace as an employer, or when you're a veteran in the workplace yourself, how can you balance your workload?
Yes.
How can you balance it out throughout the day? Or how can you keep yourself motivated with tasks and activities rather than have this massive surge in the morning?
Yeah.
And then you sort of bimbling around in the afternoon and waiting for the clock to strike. Because it's always the way in the military, innit? You get up in the morning, you turn to, and by lunch you can be done.
Yeah.
That's why
sports afternoon.
That's why sports afternoon, or a flyer on a Thursday afternoon or a Friday afternoon. It doesn't work like that in civilian world. We are expected to work all day long and keep productive. So you need to make that transition, I think, if you're a veteran going into the workplace. What else, Spence? What else have you got?
Well, it's funny you should mention about coming out the blocks early. When you're talking about veterans, they might come out the blocks early. They might turn up half an hour before they're supposed to turn up. But their appearance and bearing means that they don't look like they've just dragged themselves out of bed. They will turn up and they will look proper. They will look straight up and down. They will be dressed appropriately. And when I say dressed appropriately, I don't mean overdressed. I don't mean underdressed. But the kit they'll have, shoes will be polished, trousers will be pressed and all that. Whereas I know some people who haven't had the pleasure of serving or would be told to turn up half an hour early at work, and they turn up half an hour early and they look like they've just got out of bed. Yeah. So appearance and bearing, it's like soft skills, I suppose.
It's amazing. Even now, 20 years, well, not quite 20 years, 15 years after leaving the military, I still spring out of bed in the morning. My alarm goes off and I'm up and I'm out and I've got energy.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to go, and that is the military way. So yeah, I think with military people, you're going to have punctual people who are going to be first in the office, people who are organised, structured, and who have an extreme work ethic in those in that early part of the day.
Yeah.
And it's about making sure we work with them to balance their activities out and give them enough so it keeps them going throughout the day. The other thing I was going to mention, Spence, is a couple of things. A lot of veterans end up growing facial hair, or certainly the male side of the veteran.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it's like sometimes we can get sort of caught up in all looking the same. We have the snappy haircut with the quiff and the facial hair or beard, right? But what people need to understand is, for years, unless you're in the Navy and you've requested to grow a beard, which you can, you've been told to shave every single morning,
certainly,
and inspected, and it's frowned upon to grow facial hair, right? Again, unless you're a sailor and you've requested it. So the luxury of leaving the military and being a civilian and growing your facial hair without judgment is one which we've never had.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's just one of those things, right? And I even had it's funny, I had an ex-army officer from Sandhurst who was in the NHS kit coming the other day, and he still said to two of his director colleagues around the room, "Have you forgot your razor this morning?"
Yeah.
and it was that conditioned officer's response to people having facial hair, right? Let me tell you, most people who are not an officer, who are either a senior rate or a junior rate, they want to rage against the machine and grow a beard because I've been told not to for 20 years. You know what I mean? So that's what you'll find. Most veterans have facial hair because of that.
Yeah.
I guess with a few minutes to go, what we sort of say in here, I think we've put a lot out there in terms of some of the quirks and some of the ways that you develop in the military, from language to behaviors to, timekeeping, etc. But the one thing I want to make the point on is, and this is like a really important point, is I want to make the point that military people are incredibly adaptable. We had to be adaptable when we transitioned from civilian into the military.
Yeah.
You have to be adaptable every time you learn a new trade, every time you switch establishment, every time you go on a new deployment. You have to learn new things, new skills, right? And they're doing that constantly throughout their career, unless you're in the RAF for 24 years, working on engines and drinking coffee.
Well,
but they are incredibly adaptable.
Yeah.
And some of the things I hear about employers is we want to employ our veterans, and we want to have veterans for all the great things they put in the West. But are they too institutionalized? Well, the answer is no, absolutely not. And people like you and I are living proof of that.
Yeah.
Because believe me, what a military person will bring, what a veteran will bring, is all the things we've highlighted. They'll be on time. They'll be smart and present.
Yeah.
They'll be structured and organized.
Yeah.
They'll have a work ethic out the blocks each and every day like no other.
Yeah.
Socially, they are great. They are like social chameleons. They can adapt to many different personality styles, right? They can mirror and match to find productive outcomes, right? They're great in front of people. There's an element of leadership in all military people. They've had to take charge of tasks or lead projects or lead teams in some fashion, right? So they've got some natural leadership qualities. So for all the little quirks of OCD and strange language and inappropriate humor and all the rest of it, if you get military people, you have a fantastic grounding to build upon. Yeah. And they are adaptable to learn new skills and new traits. So I don't think we do it enough, but I want to implore people to look at employing veterans.
Yes.
And don't be worried about the age. If I've got a 45-year-old veteran who spent 25 years in the military, am I really going to start from scratch with them now? Absolutely. Because very quickly will they be able to get up to speed with the experiences they have.
Yes. And the loyalty that they display. If you're right with them, they'll be right with you.
Yeah, exactly right. They're used to staying in one place and serving a cause for a long period of time.
Yes.
Right. So as long as you put the groundwork in and the effort, you will get that in return.
Yeah, definitely.
One last thing for me on caution for veterans going in the workplace. It takes about 8 years to get this out of us, right? To slowly erode. But resist the temptation every time somebody says, directs you or gives you a way of doing something to say, well, in the military, we used to.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
We fall foul of that all the time.
Chin that off straight away.
Well, back in the military, what we used to do is, and people are looking at you thinking, you're not in the bloody military anymore, mate, right? Yeah. But we want to pull upon our wealth of knowledge and go, back in the military, in my day, right?
To start turning into Uncle Albert.
During the war. Mate, the amount of times that people have called me Uncle Albert is unbelievable. During the war. So, veterans in the workplace, Spence, they are a funny bunch, but they've got so much to give.
Oh, yeah.
So much to offer. And, and we've got to embrace that. And I've seen so many successful transitions. We're living proof of that.
Yeah.
And I want to implore employees to just consider if they're doing enough in that search to bring ex-veterans into the workplace.
Certainly. It's something that you might have to put a little bit more work into. If you start looking at a CV that might not be exactly what you want, but there's the possibility there, then talk to them, find out about what experiences they've got, because some of the transferable skills they can bring, phenomenal.
Absolutely. Spencer Locker, enjoyed that, mate, as 2 ex-veterans talking
Cheers,
about
shippers.
veterans. Cheers, mate. And we'll see you again for another T2 Hubcast.